Hi everyone, welcome to episode 26 of the Yarnflakes Podcast. My name is Audrey and this is a knitting, weaving, yarny craft podcast from the southwest of France where the sun doesn't want to get up. I decided to start filming and hoping that the light won't be too terrible. But yeah, I would for sure like those clouds to go away. But what can you do? Welcome to everyone! I hope you all had a lovely week. I did. As usual, timestamps to every section of the podcast will be in the description, so if you wish to skip any or jump to a particular topic, feel free to do so. You will also have links to everything that I talk about, as well as my social media, Ravelry, and likes. I feel like I had a very slow week. It's been happening for the past couple of weeks, actually. I believe you might have noticed it. I feel like I'm not making any progress on my things, and I'm not enjoying knitting on the things that I am currently working on so much. I know I will love the finished projects, but I think I made the mistake of picking projects with a very similar process, so it feels kind of repetitive and I don't have anything very challenging that I can just zoom through and make me feel better about the more slow, repetitive ones. But I still have done something, so it is really just an impression, but yeah, I can't wait to have some of those things finished so I can start new things and be happier about my making. But yes, I feel slow. I feel like I rip back a lot for no very good reason. What an enthusiast introduction, right? Makes you want to keep watching. I do, however, have a few finished objects, so let's just start with the knitting section. And my finished object, knitting-wise, are those mittens. You saw one of them last week, and now I finished the pair. Those are mittens I made for my boyfriend. And I used a free pattern on Ravelry, which is called Fingerless Gloves for Dan. And yeah, I shared on my previous episodes what I thought about the pattern. Generally useful. It gave me the numbers for fingering weight medium-sized mittens, which is what I wanted. But there are some adjustments that I would have made myself, such as giving more stitches to the pinky, less stitches to the ring finger, and yeah, I didn't follow the picking up stitches instructions at the corners. I did my own, which is picking up until I didn't have any holes and then decreases, and I end up with pretty good intersections of fingers, I guess. Yeah, this is the second one that I made. I finished just last week, finished it quite quickly. This is really fast to make. Like I said, those are fingering weight mittens. This is Late Summer by Lakeside Yarns, which is an indie dyer from Germany. And these only use 30 grams. So I'm going to make socks out of the rest because I really like the colorway. And yeah, I don't mind the pulling. I actually like it at the pull. I am one of those persons that actually like when a yarn pulls because I feel like it looks like a painting. When I have a textured stitch, I prefer when it looks like more hazard and you don't have pulling. But when it's just stockinette, I find that the pulling is much more interesting, basically, than the more diffused. Don't get me wrong, I like that too, but I kind of like that the palms have those little spots of blue. Yes, so very soft yarn. I believe it's a 75-25. It peeled a little bit, but that's because I blocked it like a moron to make it as a little bit stretchier, a little bit wider, especially for the fingers. Because, like I said, those aren't for me, so they're a little bit big for me. There's too much fabric around my fingers and it feels uncomfortable, which is good because my boyfriend has wider fingers, so it should fit him fine. I have to, yeah, don't worry. I have to send them to him and see. He said he likes the look of them, so I hope that he will also like how they fit. I'm gonna keep him warm and toasty. How do you even take off mittens? I feel like this is so silly, just have to poke out every finger. I didn't even say. I'm wearing my Saturate shawl, which I shared quite a few episodes ago. I finished it at the end of the summer, and it's this beautiful fringed fade half pie shawl that keeps me warm, and it's big and nice because of my new short hair that it really is too short. It's not how I wanted it. I wanted it here, but yeah, it's going to grow and be good in a couple of months. So yes, you can't even see my orcas. Look. Back to the topic. The next project I want to share with you are the short ankle socks that I was making as samples for my hand-dyed yarns. The first one is Weirdo on Maple Street, and I showed you last week that I made, that I finished this one already, but that I had a 3x1 cuff and that it looked horrible. I am knitting all of those toe up because I wanted to see the colorway as soon as possible. And I like 3x1 rib for my ankle socks. So that's what I did, except I don't like binding off ribs. And stretchy bind off for socks are like my nemesis. And I had done the simple stretchy bind off, which looked horrible on a 3x1 rib. It was way too outgoing because of the like there were more knit stitches, so it really flared out. It was ugly, and I said I wouldn't fix it, but yeah, I just took it. Was only like 6 rows of ribbing, so I took it off because I figured I would feel better just ripping it, even if it contributed to my low filling. I felt better doing it, fixing it, rather than knitting the second sock and not knowing that it will look awful. So I did a 2x2 rib and bind off the exact same way, which is again the simple stretchy bind off, and ta-da, it looks good. So it definitely was indeed the 3x1 rib that looked really awful with this stretchy bind off method. I don't know if any stretchy bind off method would work for a 3x1 rib. To be honest, I don't want to take the fuss, like make a fuss and go through the trouble of making the rib and then realizing it's ugly and undo it. I just will not make ankle socks toe up because I really like my 3x1 rib on my ankle, and I mean this is good, but I prefer the 3x1. You can't really see because it's a cream and it's getting blown away, but yeah. Blown away. Blown out. Yes, now I'm gonna say it. I said it at the intro. I'm French, so that's where you have like a sort of a warning for any weird vocabulary and pronunciation problems. So yes, I'm gonna do Afterthoughts here, and yeah, you already saw this one last week. I am working on the second one, and this is what I have. So again, this is the Weirdo on Maple Street colorway, and yeah, I don't have that much more to do for this one. I'm gonna do a cream heel as well. And I have finished another one, this one, which is the Red Bone colorway. Yes, it's called Red Bone and it's green and brown, but deal with it. And for this one I picked like a bright orange contrast color. And yeah, I did the 2x2 rib, the simple stretchy bind off, and it looks pretty neat. And it's not blocked yet, so yeah, gonna do the contrast heel in orange as well. And I haven't cast on this one, the second one for this yet. I'm gonna finish this one, then I'm gonna cast on this second one. And then I will only have the self-striping sample to finish. And yeah, I will have 3 new pairs of ankle socks, which is really nice because I wear a lot of ankle socks. Even now that the cold months are coming, it's still most of the socks that I'm wearing, so this will be nice and warm. The next project I want to share with you is my peony top, and I finished the back. So this has been going on forever. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful, it's enjoyable. It's the most enjoyable of my work in progress right now, but it's still quite, look at that drapiness, it's so beautiful. So yeah, it's the most enjoyable of my works in progress right now, but it's still mostly stockinette at a very fine gauge. So this is the Peony Top by Verena Kors, which is a linen tank top, and I have made the back, so I now have to do the same, except it's not as big, so hopefully it's going to go faster. I've done the armhole shaping and the shoulders and neck. I think you pick up at the end and make like a small rolled neckline, and the same at the armholes at the end. So this is knit out of Lino Muka, which is 100% linen, in the grass green colorway. And I blocked it because I wanted to block each part. Well, she said to block each part separately before seaming them and then block it again. And it just blocked beautifully. It evened out, it bloomed, and it got that really nice drapiness. So I was super afraid that it would be too small. And that is because my row gauge is super tight. And I'm afraid of running out of yarn, and at the same time I don't want it to be too small. So I considered knitting longer on the back. So you shape the armhole and then you have a straight portion. But the thing is, at the front you don't have, like, my brain was like, no, I wouldn't have wanted to figure out how to knit longer on the front to match the longer back. So I knit the top portion like the instructions said, and I just blocked it really aggressively. Like, I stretched it lengthwise as far as possible. And you know, it's linen, so it doesn't have that much stretch. But I did it as much as I could, and I gained 4 or 5 centimeters, I think. So when I measure it, I am just like the schematic. So I think lengthwise, I'm okay. Like, it's the back, but yeah, it's not going to be too short, I hope. But now I'm afraid that because I stretched it lengthwise, I'm afraid it's going to be too narrow. No, I'm not that big. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. It has to be fun. If it's not fun, I don't know who I will give it to, because my sister is now smaller than me now. So I'll just be sad, I guess. I really want it to fit. I want it for me. It's mine. It's beautiful and I want it to fit, and I'm really anxious that it won't. But which is why I need to cast on the front as soon as possible and zoom through it so I can be released of that anxiety. Because it's so beautiful and drapey. And yeah. Look at that. So yeah, the lace hem blocked nicely. It wasn't, didn't need anything particular. But yeah. The last knitting project I want to share with you is my Deline shawl, which is a shawl by Melanie Berg that I am knitting out of drops lace in burgundy wine colorway, which is silk alpaca blend, which is absolutely lovely yarn. And this, so complicated. This is the shawl. So it's grown quite a lot since you last saw it. And I think I should start decreasing now. So the way this shawl is built is that it's knit sideways, and it has this lace pattern all the way at the bottom of it. A lace pattern which looks absolutely awful when it's not blocked, but you get the idea. Looks like that. And so you start with a little bit of extra stitches here, and then you increase, which makes a stockinette part. And I increased until here, which I thought was a reasonable width for a shawl, more like a decorative shawl, but I still wanted it to go over one's shoulder nicely. And so I think it's long enough. I don't know. I don't want it to be too short because the short shawl is ridiculous. And I have plenty of yarn left. I just joined the second ball of yarn. So I did all of this with one ball, and I just joined like here. But it's super stretchy, and I know I'm going to stretch it a lot for the lace to be beautiful. So my idea is to make it my wingspan unstretched. So I think I'm gonna make a few more repeats and then start decreasing to make the second point. Yeah. I'm aiming for it to, like I said, be my wingspan before blocking, which is going to make it kind of like my height when blocked, I guess. I compared with other shawls that have like an elongated shape as well. But yeah, I hope I will have this finished rather soon, because definitely it's not the funniest thing to knit. The yarn is beautiful. I mean, when you look at it, it's really pretty and nice and light, and I really like it, and I love the color. But it's just that the pattern, the lace pattern, is not memorizable. I can't memorize it, and it's not very engaging. So either. So I basically really need to follow the chart, but it still feels quite repetitive and long. And I feel like I set myself a goal of knitting at least 2 repeats every day, and yeah, I feel like I'm really pushing through those 2 repeats every day. But it worked because I did a whole lot of progress. And yeah, I really can't wait to block it and see it magically transform and see how much it was worth it and see that freaking rolled edge not rolling anymore. It's completely see-through, it's lace. Like I said, it's not meant to be warm, it's more meant to be pretty. But it's going to be super light. And since it's alpaca and silk, I mean, if you roll it over your neck, it's still going to be quite warm. That's it for my knitting work. I have knits on the body of my Marius cardigan, but you know, it's just plain stockinette. So it's not very interesting yet, and it's taking forever. You can see what I mean by projects that are all equally not very engaging, but that are really worth it at the end, so I still need to work on them. I have a little bit of crochet today. If you remember, I was working on a scrappy crochet blanket. And much like the cuff of my ankle socks, I decided that there was no point in me working on it if I didn't like it, and I didn't like it. I really liked I'm gonna try and find a picture of the pattern I was following. It had that chevron shape, and I really liked that, but I made it too wide. It was way too big. It was twice my wingspan, arm span. So it was twice that. It was massive. I used a crochet hook that was way too big. I think I was using like a 5mm, and sure, I'm really using scraps. Like, it's a mix of every weight of yarn and mostly acrylic and cotton, and it's a mess. But it was looking really spotty, like it was completely see-through. It was not squishy, and it was not blankety. It was holes everywhere, so it would kind of have failed its blanket purpose, I think. So I ripped everything, and I didn't do that much on it. Like, I had probably this done, but it took me a while to rip it all. So now I have an ugly cake. If you remember, I had made a magic knot cake with all the little scraps, and it's what it looks like now. It kind of looks like cotton candy. No. I stick my crochet hook in it. So yeah, now I'm using is it a 3.5mm hook. And sure, it's maybe a bit big for this kind of decay weight yarn, but it still works. And I decided that I would just do the standard granny ripple blanket. So I ditched the chevron look, just because this felt much more squishy to me. So yeah, I ripped it all. I chained one wingspan, so it's going to be like one bed-sized, sorry, I hit my lamp, one person bed-sized blanket, but I plan on making a border, like crochet a border all around it, so it's going to make it a little bit wider if necessary. But yeah, so yeah, and I crocheted while watching some movies, and this is what I got done. So I feel much better about it. It looks much prettier. I mean, it's still crappy yarns and everything, and looks pretty crazy, but I feel like overall it's going to look much nicer, and I actually really want to have that blanket the way it looks right now. So I'm going to work a lot more on it, since I actually like how it's looking. The next thing I want to share is some cross stitch, and I am very happy to say that I have a finished object. Yes! I started this back in May, June, I don't remember, and I finally finished it. This is the Folk Foxes pattern and kit. I actually got the kit by The World in Stitches on Etsy. And it's done. It's completed. And it was really fascinating doing the last bits, putting the leaves and the flowers. And it just made it look so intricate. Like out of nowhere, it became, from those two big foxes, it became this thing with like lots of little details. And I really, really like it. It looks quite autumnal, actually, with the foxes and the orangey shades. This was really enjoyable to do, and yeah, I am definitely going to start another project right away. Yeah, cross stitch is just relaxing, and it looks so neat. It's so satisfying to look at because it just looks so like pointillism. It just looks so precise and even, and when you touch it, and you feel the evenness of the stitches, it's just so satisfying. I really, really like it. I especially like this top part here. That was really nice. Now the back. This is a temporary finish. I just threaded a needle and did long stitches and tucked it down as much as possible, just so that it would lay flat. This is just for me, so I don't need it to especially look good, but you see, I should tack down this one. But it lays flat on the wall, so I don't care. As far as the actual stitching back goes, yeah, this is my first cross stitch ever. It's not messy. Actually, what makes it look messy is all the ends of the yarn, so I don't quite know how you can make it look not messy. Well, there are some spots where I definitely made a poor job to keep the back neat, but it's a learning curve to figure out in what order, what direction you need to make certain really spotty shapes to save as much thread as possible. But the front, the actual front that you're looking at, is pretty neat. And that's all the making content I have for this week. I do have a little bit of dream knitting slash what's hanging there. So I received Len magazine, and yeah, I really like Len magazine, but this is the first one that I got because from the two previous installments, I just liked like a couple patterns, so I felt like it's a beautiful magazine. It's more of a book, really. It's really beautiful, so it's definitely worth its price. But yeah, if it was only one pattern that I wanted to make, I felt that I could live without it. But this one, I actually want to make so many of the patterns, and I'm planning on getting yarn for 2 sweaters for after Christmas. The first sweater that I want to make is, of course, the Hay sweater, which is a pattern by Claire Mountain, and it's and it has like a lace panel to the sides, and it's just simple. And I also like this, the Teolai cardigan. I like it, but I plan on making a chunky cardigan from woods, so it will be kind of repetitive. And I must say, this is the one that made me order the magazine. It's this, which is the Kuro sweater by Sari Nordlund. Sorry if I'm butchering that. But it's just this gorgeous twisted stitches and cables, and I'm going to make this one January. It will be my starting to a 2018 project. I'll get the yarn and I'll start making it. That is, if I have done all the other sweaters that I want to make for this year. And it's October. Anyway, it's a beautiful magazine. I mean, the pictures are amazing. The different editorial content on companies and designers are just gorgeous. I want to move in with Viola yarns, by the way, because that right here, I want to move in there. Yeah, and it's just much like Woods. It's a very inspiring and motivating magazine. I really like the Tresta as well, which is the colorwork yoke, but it's knit out of let lopi, and I don't like let lopi so much. Rather, like I said last episode, I don't have an appropriate weather to be able to wear a let lopi sweater, so I'll have to find an hour and weight substitute for it if I want to make it. And I really like the shawl. Fallen Leaves is the name of the shawl, and I really like that stitch detailing here with the fake cabling. This is the shawl by Justyna Lorkowska. Yeah, I heard her name already and can't for the life of me pronounce it properly. She's quite known. And beautiful. There's recipes as well in it, and there's a Berlin, an article on Berlin, where to go, what to eat, and I already wanted to go and visit Berlin, so now I want to do it even more. I went to Germany already, but not Berlin, because I'm like that. I go to a country and I don't go to its capital. Maybe because I don't like Paris at all, so I have a bad impressions on capitals, even though I do like Brussels and Dublin and London. London is okay. For a foreigner, London is okay, I guess. But yeah. Right. The sock pattern is really cute as well. So yeah, there's 2 sweaters I want to make, definitely. There's a shawl I will probably make at some point. The other big cardigan, I know if I want a big cardigan in a couple of years, I'll make it. And, you know, just too many nice things. And, yeah, I put my post-its as well, like I did for Woods. So, yeah, it's a really beautiful magazine, and it's definitely my favorite edition that I've seen by them. So I'm really happy I got it, and I highly recommend that you do. So when I pre-ordered it, I actually pre-ordered it from a shop, an online shop that I had never purchased from before, which is a French online shop, which is called Laine des Îles. And they carry lacquer yarns, John Arbon. They focused on natural, mostly European, I think I've seen, brands. And they have 2 things that caught my eyes. They have Tukkuwool, which is the Finnish brand, well-known Finnish brand. And I got some of their fingering yarn. And this is the 28H Ujo colorway. Ujo, I think it was on Ravelry colorway. And it's this perfectly indescribable color. It's like a movie, old antique rose, purpley thing, grey rose, and it's gorgeous. And so I'm going to use it for a sock design that I have in mind. And I want to make like cozy home socks that are going to be a lot focused on texture, and that will look prettier, I feel, in rustic kind of wool. I actually have the swatch for this design, so I can kind of show it to you quickly. Can you see the texture? I swatched in a cream, which is maybe not the best idea for you to see, but yeah. So this is my design. This is the front of the sock, and this will be, of course, at the outside of the leg. So this will become this. I just need to write down the pattern. I want to write it and then knit my sample socks out of it, to kind of test knit it myself in one go, so to say. I was planning on making a chart as well as written instructions, but it actually would be pretty confusing, I think, as a chart. So I'll just do written instructions, and I'll talk about more about that when I will actually have the pattern released and everything. I plan to work on it in the next few weeks, so I don't know when they will be released. Definitely before December. I guess November will be the time. So yeah, watch this space. And the other yarn that caught my eye on the online shop is a yarn from the Faroe Islands. Yes. It's called Snælden. I'll write it here. And they have a range of a lot of different weights. They have lace weight, fingering, DK, and then Aran chunky. And they come either in natural or undyed, or in really, really brightly. Come on. My neighbor thinks that he's cool and has a nice bike. Well, really, he just has one of those annoying little teenagers' motorcycles that just make this mosquito sound, you know. It's gone now. So they have undyed yarns, which comes in a lot of different shades. There's brown, there's cream, and there's grey. And this is their fingering weight, and it's the medium grey, the grey. They have silver grey, light grey, medium grey, dark grey, and this is the middle. And I just love how it looks, and it feels so nice. From what I gather, I think it's a Falkland. It says Falkland breed, which is it's a tag for either merino or Polworth, made in those islands. This is mostly Polworth, I guess. Even though it's very soft, it's super soft. It's maybe not for a shawl, although like a really wintry neck accessory that wouldn't need to be super soft. But for sweaters, yes. So I just got this one skein of fingering, and I think I'm gonna make socks out of it, but I'll definitely come back for sweaters because they're fairly affordable, and a sweater's quantity, especially in the fingering weight, which is the 2-ply, they call it 2-ply, is perfect. I just need like 3 or 4 skeins depending on the stitch pattern, and it's gorgeous and in all the natural colors. So yeah, Snælden yarns, a really, really amazing discovery, and I cannot wait to fiddle some more. And I put in my queue, I had a lot of sweater patterns in my queue that I didn't know exactly which yarn I wanted to use for them, and I put this almost everywhere, like use all of this, because like I said, they come in all different weights, and it's just really nice and soft, and I cannot wait to knit with it. and actually see how it moves and how it works. Gonna make socks. I don't know which ones, but gonna make socks. Probably like a textural, really nice sock pattern that will need a more rustic style wool. But this is beautiful. I have some book talk this week. So this is my section on literature and reading, where I just share what I'm reading and my thoughts on it. And yes, so I was reading Incantations and Other Stories by Anjana Appachana, which is an Indian author. It's a collection of short stories, and I finished it. And towards the end is Incantations, which is the major short story of the collection, because this is where it takes its title from. And I found that it was really representative of the general mood and angle that the author takes. So to talk about it quickly, it's so the narrator tells her story, and this one is a little bit more dramatic than the rest of the short stories. Throughout the entire book, even if something awful happens, it was told in a casual way. But this one, Incantations, is a little bit more dramatic. It's a little bit more teary, and it tries to be teary. It's just, it emphasizes a little bit more on psychological dramas, and basically something awful happens to the narrator's sister. But that's actually not the focus of the story. This really awful, ugly, dramatic thing is actually not the point of the story, because the story goes on after this is finished, and this is really not the focus. What the narrator is telling, essentially, she uses that event as an accessory to tell about how she handles the two clichéic personalities in her. Two types of women conflicting inside her. One is like her mother, really loving, caring, reassuring figure, and a bit bored. And one is like her aunt, independent, strong, modern, knowledgeable, but cold. And that's kind of the general purpose of every character in the book, is that they are put in a modern world, but either they or the world around them is leaning backwards or putting in a direction that they don't feel is good. There are two short stories with the same character, which is a man, which is doing everything that he can not to work, which is, to me, is the funniest short stories, and actually the ones I preferred. And it's kind of the same thing. It's a man that he's completely lazy and old-minded in his relation to work and to his co-workers and other people, but at the same time he kind of got the really cunning attitude that the modern world has taught him, so that he could go around it doing as he pleases. And so it's always around those lines, how you become a person in a society that's conflicting and forcing two very different things upon you, so to say. Well, yeah, I think that's the main interest of the book, and that's what I would advertise it as. And overall, it's an okay book. It doesn't do anything mind-blowing. It wasn't particularly extraordinary to me. It didn't revolution my literature life, but it's okay. I gave it 3 stars, I think, out of 5 on Goodreads. For what this rating means. It's a good book. It does something particular, and even though it's not doing it in a magnificent way, I'm still happy I read it. The next book I'm reading, flipping completely 180 degrees, is going to be It by Stephen King. Because, the movie got out and everybody was talking about it, and I got interested in it, but I'm too much of a baby to watch such a movie. I know it's not real horror, but still no. No, I don't want to. I don't have anything wrong with clowns. I don't care about clowns. I'm not particularly scared of them. But I don't like being stressed. I wanted to satisfy my curiosity. I have read some Stephen King, but what I have read is actually his lesser known books, or books that he wrote under an alias, under a fake name, pen name, and like The Talisman, which I really liked. I think that's the English title. I don't know. And I also read The Long Walk and stuff like that, and I like them. I wasn't transcended by them, but I liked them. But The Talisman I really liked. I read it as a teenager and I have a vivid memory of it. Digressing, but I've never read Shining, Misery, I've never read them. And I thought, okay, well, this is the occasion, since I'm getting curious about it, this is the occasion to actually read it. So I ordered it and I got it. Yes. And I have to say, the French translation for the title was very clever. They called it, because, you see, I keep saying it. It's quite difficult to translate such a thing, because you don't have an equivalent in French for it. We don't have a neutral thing that you use all the time. That's like it, and that goes everywhere. I'm reading it in English, but the French title for it is Ça, which is kind of good, because it's a subject or an object that it's this or that, basically. So it's not completely it, but it's still very close, and it works just the same. You see, as I'm talking about I'm talking about it, and this keeps happening. But if I were to speak in French, I would as well use ça all the time, talking about ça, which would be the name of the book. Yeah, just a funny thing with how they translated the title, which I thought was fairly clever, and one example that sometimes translations can be good. But I still decided to read it in English because I can, and because I wanted to have the proper Stephen King style. I've started reading it. I really like it so far. I haven't read a lot because I keep falling asleep. Not that it's boring, it's just that I'm sleepy, so I basically read 1 page and I fall asleep. But since it's like, my edition is 1,000 and something pages. If I read a page a day every night, it's gonna take me forever. It's gonna take me, 3 years? No. So I just have to read some more of it in a more focused state of mind. But I really liked it. I've seen it a couple of times. And yeah, I'm still at the very beginning of the book. And I'm into it. The writing is as good as you'd expect. And I knew the book the story was more like a chronicle of lives and in little towns in the States at that during that time, during mid-century, and I found that really interesting. And so far, I really like how it seems to be an excuse for something that would have happened anyway. If you've read the book or know the story, spoiler, the first two people that die, like the kid and then the what's his name? Melon? The homosexual person that is bitten and thrown in the river. Those two people, it feels to me, that's my interpretation so far, it feels to me like they would have died anyway because of how the world is. The first one because it's an accident, and it's kind of, it's funny because the way it's written, he's going to die from very early on. Like Stephen King keeps saying, oh, and this will be the last time he will see his brother, stuff like that, And so everything that happens in that scene, in that little short chapter, is driving him towards his death. So you feel like either because of fate, of not being lucky, of the way the weather is behaving, and it's quite dangerous at that in that moment, or because it's a fiction and the author is godlike and he's doing whatever he wants with his character. You feel that this little boy is going to die anyway, and that it's just like an accessory to finish him, so to say. Because he already is sort of dead when he loses the boat. This actually came to my mind with the second story, which is a story about how a homosexual, a gay man couple is assaulted and beaten by a bunch of thugs. The guy is dead. Regardless of it, regardless of the monster that's here, the guy is dead. I mean, he's getting beaten to death by those thugs. And yeah, he's dead. And it is just finishing the job, or more, putting a name on it. It is putting death on the event. But it's not necessarily his doing. It's not his doing at all in that situation. I mean, if the guy wasn't beaten to death by the thugs, if this town wasn't completely homophobic, this wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have gotten him. And I still don't know where's the fault, so to say. But so far, my idea is that the people created it. If you see what I mean. Rather than it being this kind of monstrous force that forces, that makes horrible stuff happen, I feel like so far it was people's doing, whether it's bad luck or the power of an author on fictional character, or those homophobic thugs. I feel like it's them who created it, maybe summoned it and make it appeared and do something that would have been done even without it. I kind of wandered around. I didn't want to talk too much about it because I just started, but I don't know. I found that this particular thing is really interesting. It's my mood right now at the beginning. It's what I'm thinking about. I don't know if that's a plausible interpretation or if that's something that's well known and thing. I never read any critics or whatever on the book. So yeah, that's just how I feel about it. And if you have read it, I would like to know your feelings. If you've seen the movies, the telefilm from the TV movie with oh god, what's his name? Oh god, what's his name? Well, that's annoying. You know who I mean. The one who played Pennywise in the TV adaptation and in the most recent movie. I'd like to know what you think about it. If you like Stephen King, what other novels by him are your favorites? I'm going to end it here for today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And yes, I will see you next week with hopefully more exciting knitting things, both for me and for you. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day, night, and week. Bye bye.